Good evening. 6 o'clock, I'm calling the Sustainability Committee meeting to order on March 20th, 2025 at 6 PM. Happy spring to everybody.
First day.
Happy spring, happy spring.
Holly, would you mind?
Yes.
Roll call.
Yes.
Thank you.
Chairperson Menino,
Here.
Dr. Carol Mickett,
Present.
Siobhan Nehan.
Present.
Excellent.
So has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from last month? And are there any amendments to the minutes or in agreement? Okay.
So I move to approve the February 2025 minutes. A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is public comments, but we have nobody here from the public. I hope every month somebody shows up. Maybe eventually it will happen. So we're going to have our first discussion is on urban forestry management plan and the introduction to the 335-300 proposition.
Excellent.
Which is very interesting. Thank you, Shannon.
Excellent. Today I would like to introduce our consultant on this. This is Mr. John Snow from Tree Checkup LLC.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Okay. Again, I'm Shannon Brewer. I'm the city municipal arborist. And tonight's, the team is, our team, since we're all up here, is proposing a quantifiable method of tracking and enhancing the urban forest. As we move through the slides, we encourage you guys to write your questions down. And then because we hope that we've done our job successfully and we answer all of your questions. So let's get on through. So in your sustainability plan, the natural environments goal aimed to develop a zero no net canopy loss through the development code. And that quote is taken right out of there. The no net canopy initiatives, they are facing significant challenges through our state's legislation currently. And I feel that the action plan was really, it's about not getting to no net canopy, but how are we planting the trees? How are we distributing this throughout our community? So we are trying to figure out that why for you and how. So we are presenting the 335-300 methodology on achieving that. Our measurable criteria are the ability to see 3 trees from every home, 35% canopy cover in residential neighborhoods, and providing a public park green space within 300 yards of a home. Green space could be a city-defined park. It could be the common HOA area land. Even the church over here, this neighborhood around Levis actually uses the church green space to walk their dogs and have community engagement. So we really, with this method, we are really trying to, build the green spaces and promote the health and all the benefits of the urban forest, as well as making it, the distribution of it very even-handed. The key advantages that the team has discussed and hope that you get to embrace as well tonight are the balances distribution of the neighborhoods at 35%. We will enhance in the well-being by being close to those green spaces, get all those benefits from trees that we always talk about, have resilience to climate change and the cooling effects of the tree cover. Mm-hmm. This does align with the community's preferences and discovered that we did through our recent surveys as part of the urban forestry management plan in the beginning with the first grant. And really we believe that this is a comprehensive and measurable, and that is the key, measurable approach.
So let me jump in on that and kind of give a little bit more depth on some of those key points. One of the things, as you may know, Tarpon Springs currently has about a 35% canopy coverage. looking at it from the state level, the state actually publishes that information, all the municipalities throughout the state. Tarpon Springs currently sits at 35%. The rule itself actually began over in Europe, came from Europe, and it's making its way over here. And it really was based on a 330, 300. And so what we did is we took that model of that 330, 300 and adapted that canopy coverage of that instead of 30, going with 35%. We don't want to reduce what we have. We want to at least maintain what we have, if not improve what we have. And as Shannon was saying, this is going to help enhance the health and well-being of people being closer to these green spaces. It's going to provide access. When people are within that 300 yards, roughly 900 feet, most people can walk that distance, and so that's one of the things that we really look at as a measurable kind of thing. We can pinpoint that using GIS and define, hey, where are these areas in the community? And that will help guide some of the planting efforts and initiatives going forward so that we can target these areas appropriately that maybe don't meet that threshold right now. The question becomes, okay, we talk about 35% canopy coverage in all the neighborhoods. Well, what about like the Publix? Any rational person can tell you're never going to get 35% canopy coverage in the Publix. But in the community itself, overall, we have that. And within the neighborhood spaces, we're going to find, my suspicion is, many areas that are well over that 35% already. So this is a good thing. And we can always adjust that number based on some of these future analyses. When we talk about that resilience to climate change and a cooling effects from tree cover, let's talk about Publix or a shopping center. Go down to Clearwater Mall. I don't know about you, but I'm always looking, now granted, I'm a tree guy, so maybe I'm biased, but I'm always looking for finding a parking space under a tree. And I think most people going to shopping center, the Publix, something like that, they're looking for that. And that's what we're talking about there. It's really that cooling effects from having the tree cover. It's an important thing to people, even though we don't really think about it. It's just we inherently know. Resilience to climate change. When we talk about hurricanes and the heat buildup and all this kind of stuff, the trees are going to help mitigate a lot of those issues. There's plenty of science out there backing all these things up. As far as the lines with community preferences, I can't really get into that. That's more Shannon's gig because she knows the surveys backwards and forwards. I don't. But to bring it all together, again, it really is going to help create a really comprehensive and a measurable approach to the whole concept and tie it back into something that's actually workable. Go ahead.
So with every measurable, we have performance indicators, and we've decided that the optimal would be 90% and above. Good would be 75 to 89%. Moderate would be 50 to 74. Low would be less than 50% to have each one of those items met. So the first objective, the see 3 trees, this captures, can you see 3 trees from a perspective in your home? It may be your front yard, your backyard, but from a certain perspective. And then trying to capture that data, we have great survey platforms that the city already uses, Connect Tarpon Springs. I've gone out to Touch a Truck, I've handed out surveys then, so we can really connect with the community and see if they actually are experiencing this. We also, like John said, the GIS, the pinpointing, the sample monitoring, we have those, and through ArcGIS platforms, we have those as well.
One of the great points on that, when you ask a resident in a survey, can you see 3 trees from your home? that requires them to do something. And that something is visualizing their home and trees in relationship to their home. So what this really starts to do is build a bond between the community residents and those 3 or 5 trees, or even if it's just one tree, or God forbid, they don't have a tree. Hey, I don't have a tree. I want a tree. And the annual tree giveaways can help facilitate that.
The second objective is the 35% canopy cover in all of our residential neighborhoods. I have done using iTree before, and I've shown that to you before. Here, the picture up on the upper left is from iTree itself. You pull up that overhead GIS. You see if that little cross or pinpoint has a tree, no tree. I did take it a step further in our other surveys, and it was about impervious surface and what kind it was. So this is a simple way to see who has trees and what our overall, and monitoring that. Some of the county has started to use LiDAR, and it's coming around. The next round is going to be using the 2023 data for LiDAR, and the city does have an opportunity to purchase that coming through the county. But doing this every 10 years for an overall tree canopy, that would give it enough change within the communities. And then doing it for 5 years for the individual neighborhoods, as our neighborhoods change more rapidly than the overall community, going with a shorter time frame on those neighborhoods, we think is beneficial.
Absolutely. You know, and just kind of go into the iTree just a little step more. If you're not familiar with iTree, it's a platform that was developed by the USDA. It's a great little platform. What Shannon's really talking about there is it randomly plots these points. So it's not biased by, you know, oh yeah, I see there's a tree here. I'm going to put a point there. Oh, there's not a tree there. It randomly plots the points on that map, and then you actually have to physically mark and delineate what that is at that specific point. So it's a great tool, and it's not something that you're going to get a huge amount of variability with, because generally when we're using iTree correctly, go with about 1,000 data points, you're getting enough of a spread there where it narrows that error rate pretty low. So a little bit on the sides.
And then objective 3 is the 300 yards to green space, or the 900 feet. Again, that is approximately a 5-minute walk. And this will really help guide, once we put our maps together, the city leadership in the future. And having this codified will guide the leadership to, do we need to purchase this land? How do we need to help the HOAs enhance their green space? Do we need to have more of a planting plan per neighborhood?
I think you hit it all.
Okay.
Or we could go into more, but
And again, that green space could be HOA, the church, any of those kind of factors. It doesn't necessarily have to be an actual park. So we hope that you've seen through our presentation here that this is a structured, measurable, community-focused based approach for the urban forest. We hope that you buy into this as much as we've put our heart and soul into it, and see that it is really resilience. And what we do need is measurable, quantifiable action items, not quantitative. Do we have a discussion?
Thank you.
Yes,
I mean,
excellent. Thank
I
you.
just think, trees are my thing, so I'm so happy about this. But I just would like some clarification about the private-public difference. So let's say, like, we have trees in our yard. So that counts as the 3 trees. I don't have to look at public land, just what's in my yard. And
it could be on your yard or on public property.
Okay.
We wouldn't be asking what I'm hearing here is you're asking the question, can you see 3 trees that are on public property? No, the question is, can you see 3 trees?
Anywhere.
Period.
Anywhere. So it could be in
Okay.
your yard, it could be in the right of way, it could be across the street.
And in terms of green space, does my yard count as green space? Or is it outside of my property as green space?
I haven't seen your yard, but I would imagine there's grass and it probably has some shrubs and some trees.
Yes,
So that would count as green space.
that counts as green space.
Now, if it's a beach, that's not, I would not count that
Okay.
necessarily as a green space. I guess in my brain, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I view, like a baseball field would be a green space.
Okay.
A cemetery would be a green space. There's a lot of places that we wouldn't necessarily consider a green space, but they actually are.
Okay.
Basically, we've got either turf or trees. Those would be the 2 requirements that I would be looking for.
Okay. It's just that public-private distinction, because at first I thought this would meant on public land, but this is any land in the city.
Well, we're talking, you're referencing the 300 rule, okay, in that. In other words, can I walk 300 yards to something like that? Yes, we're looking at more of a
Community.
community, it could be in an HOA, it could be a park, it could be at the church, it could
Okay.
be a cemetery. I mean, the cemetery is probably not public,
No.
but if you are within that range, you're still within that.
Okay.
You have that ability to go visit if you so desire.
So then that means that the 300 yards should be to some public.
Publicly accessible, that would be the key, is that it's
Okay.
publicly accessible. So if it's like a private HOA, yeah, that's gated, that's gonna benefit those residents, and it may
Mm.
still fit the overall threshold for that community, but that's people outside that community, obviously, we'd have to figure out a way in the GIS software to kind of, instead of getting a radius, maybe it's a smiley face or something like that, gets cut off.
Okay, thank you.
And then it would be also another perfect opportunity that, you're showing the uneven-handedness of that, and then maybe we need to go find some green space there. Maybe we need to go create a pocket park in a more public neighborhood. And that would help define the leadership roles through that 300 avenue, and codifying this would give us the staff to be able to say, yes, this is what we want. This is what the residents want. of Dartmouth.
So I'm really glad that you brought that point up, because it's not something that, a lot of people are gonna necessarily kind of grasp. And, from the analysis side and all that,
Mm.
we need to understand that so that as we go through the whole process, we can communicate this better to the residents as
Mhm.
well. So they understand what that is and why it's important.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of research out there that demonstrates, hey, if you got 3 trees that you can see from your home, it's gonna perk you up, make you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
If I could walk 300 yards to a place,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tend to be healthier.
And it's also important. I happen to live in a neighborhood that has lots of trees. It's an older neighborhood. And it makes all the difference because, and I have a dog. So when I walk my dog in the summer, it's so cool because I'm under all these trees. And I know there are neighborhoods in the city that don't have what I'm lucky to have.
Right.
So the more we can do that for all of our neighborhoods, I think I really applaud this project because it's going to be better for everybody and for the city as a whole when we cool everything down.
Absolutely.
So thank you for following through on this.
Great, thank you.
Siobhan, before I launch in, please.
Well, unless you want to go
No,
first.
go ahead.
I'm a landscape designer,
Okay,
so I
great.
deal with this all the time. One one project I'm doing right now is in Safety Harbor, and all around this house, it's a brand new house. It's just it has a beautiful canopy. So I said to the homeowner, the gift that you could give is putting trees on the right of way and in the front corner yard, and I'm trying to get as many trees in there as possible. And luckily, they're going along with that. But one of the problems I run into a lot is the right-of-way area, is so small. There's new development in Tarpon Bayshore South or something,
West Bay Shore Heights.
yeah. I mean, the right-of-way is ridiculously small. And then they put oak trees in, and they're like 10 feet away from the houses, which are gonna cause problems later on. So, I'm just throwing out the right-of-way could be figured into this scenario too. So we're at 35% of coverage right now?
That's what the state said.
Okay, and where would we like to be?
That's the question.
50%?
So
No?
Would that be good?
Wouldn't that be nice?
if you want to explore more about what communities are, go to our Connect Tarpon Springs page. I did post the state assessment on there
Okay,
as one of the documents in there.
okay.
It seems that what John and I have been looking at are the communities roughly with the same population size. So, when was it that I came back to you before this? Was it September-ish? There was a couple meetings before that I put a list of the communities. I can't think of those right now off the top of my head about what their percentages were. But that whole document can show you everywhere. It did break it down into our zones, so West Central Florida versus the other parts, South and North. So really look at the ones that are around us, because our zone climates, your 10A and 10Bs, really look at those if you start to examine that. But yes, you're right. What do we want? What canopy coverage should Tarpon Springs have?
Because some of the other communities like Dunedin has been really great with their commitment to trees.
But I think the key point here that we need.
And also Shannon has been totally committed. I have to say,
Oh, yeah.
totally committed. I mean, I'm not, I just think that they're somebody to look at, as far as their commitment. But, you've just been doing a bang-up job.
Great.
Mhm.
The key point here is, we could certainly change that threshold to 50% or whatever we decide. I think it makes good sense to start now with, okay, hey, let's go ahead and adopt this 335, 300, and then revisit
Yeah.
that number after we've actually had a chance to really do an analysis, because we don't want to create a situation where we go with, say, a 50%. And I'm not opposed to 50%. But we're never going to get 50% canopy coverage at the Publix. We know that.
Yeah.
We're going to be lucky if we can get 10%. We have to make that up in other areas of the community, but without actually having done a data analysis on everything, we don't know where they're at. And to her point, yes, some community areas have fewer trees than other neighborhoods. And so we have to kind of figure that whole thing out and do the data analysis before we make radical changes. And that's why we're kind of proposing that 35, because we know, hey, we're already there. So if we just keep it where we're at, we're not going backwards.
Mhm.
And that's the key point.
We
Does
can
that-
only
Does that make some
improve.
sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, it does, but I would like to see like a long-term plan of, shooting for, say, 45% in 5 years and 50% in,
Okay, we can definitely work towards that.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
and then also with the overdevelopment of our county. I mean, I can see where you're talking about new development and you can fit it into that, but what about these existing neighborhoods that have, they have nothing? And it's all built out.
And from the most recent, when I had the interns come through and inventory Union Academy, Dorset, and did an analysis on them as well, and I pulled out that particular those neighborhoods, it was the census tract that we pulled out. That's how, with having the component of on-street inventory as well as the aerial, you can find the right tree for the right place that way. Yes, you can say we have 25% in those neighborhoods, which I think is the number. Because I know downtown was more and the historic district, that was 19%. And I believe they were somewhere in the 20s. Walking those streets, seeing the dots on the map, you can see where we need to pull that out. Also, the analysis that the state has done, they've got some great tools to be able to work those together. But I believe it's doable. And like you said, using the right of way, definitely. If they're going to be assets to the community, we need to manage our own asset. And that's the only way to do it, is put that tree in the right of way.
Well,
Right.
Shannon, when you were saying that Union Academy is what percentage?
It's somewhere in the
19?
20s. Don't
Oh.
quote me on the number, but I believe that area is
So,
20%.
Is it just an average that is giving us the 35% based on wetland areas in combination with the urban environment?
Yes, and when I did it with iTree as well as the state,
Mm.
we took the shape file of the city limits, not the unincorporated,
Yeah.
but yet all of that went into it. I do know that the state tried their hardest to pull out some of those non-plantable areas, like if it was the beach in New Smyrna, I know that they tried their hardest to pull out some of those non-plantable areas and not use them in their assessment.
Mhm. So it really, it's wonderful to hear the plan because it's really addressing the first couple of actions of our sustainability plan very directly. I'm wondering if there are any studies that are giving measurable reduction of the heat based on big trees. Just,
I
is
believe
there,
there's
is there
some
anything?
I believe that there's some European studies on that. I'd have to really kind of
I-
go do some
I've
digging.
heard 10 degrees.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
brutal when you
Yeah.
walk out of
Oh.
the shade. I mean,
Yeah.
just riding a bike down the Pinellas Trail, if you're in the shade,
You're
it's
right.
incredibly pleasant.
know.
It's incredibly pleasant in the middle of the summer. You're riding the trail behind the hospital
yep,
and it's cool.
Yep.
But as soon as you cross Klosterman and get into certain areas where there's nothing along the trail, the heat is in, unbearable. It's almost dangerous,
Right.
unless you're wetting yourself with your water bottle. But
like you said, that 10% or 10 degrees, I know there's plenty of studies that have kind of demonstrated that roughly 10, 12 degree difference. But as it relates to actually like the 330, 300 rule
Mhm.
itself, like I said, originally that was more developed over in Europe. And I do believe that there are some studies where they've been able to kind of beginning to document some of that change in the heat based on adapt or grabbing that the various data from the 330, 300.
Mhm.
That threw me off.
Yep, sorry,
It just
the-
timed out.
yeah, our media, apparently we have a new computer that is our media, and it locked us out, so we are gonna need access to that. So guys in the back?
Can I ask another question, or are you
Yeah,
not?
I'm still asking a few things. I'm just curious how, I really, really appreciate the fact that we're working it's not just city property. It's not just public property, but we're working with residents in a partnership where we're creating more shade and, more coverage through the combination. But how are we reaching the public? I mean, there are some people that really just don't like trees because they shed in their yard. And how do we overcome some of the barriers of well, I don't want to say anything, I don't want to label it, but any tree resistance.
You know, that's a great question. That's one of the challenges that urban foresters have is, you know, how do we reach people that for one reason or another don't want trees or are afraid of trees? We can go into, you know, the dynamics behind that, the psychology behind that. There's a whole bunch of little things that could go into that. But that's a challenge that we're all going to face, and we're going to continue to face from today to the end of time. And, you know, I think when we begin to ask simple questions, can you see 3 trees from your home?
Mhm.
It's a yes, no. But it begins to build that awareness. Hey, yeah, I can see 3 trees. Oh, but my neighbor down the road that I go visit doesn't have any trees in their front yard.
Mhm.
And then you tie that back to tree giveaways and some of these kind of things. Hey, did you know that there's a tree giveaway? So it's a way to kind of, what's the words I'm looking for here? You know, engage in a conversation with the residents rather than just trying to jam something down their throat. Hey, please attend our free tree giveaway. Why aren't you here? You
And I-
know,
And I think that goes back to listening.
Mhm.
Listening, having a relationship with the community, having a relationship with that individual. Why are they? Ask those questions. I try to do that at our tree giveaways when people come up to me and say, no, I don't want that. Also, if we start to go and move towards specific community plantings, you know, we're going to have their buy-in in order to do a tree planting in that neighborhood. Maybe have that conversation when we go at, you know, where I want to plant next is Dorset and Union Academy. So go have a public meeting with them, go have a neighborhood gathering, see who are the ones that are buying in. Maybe it's not me that convinces, maybe it's the neighbor next door.
I have an idea.
Oh.
We could have tree ambassadors
Mm-hmm.
that are in, you know, there are a lot of tree huggers in our community.
Mhm.
And we could set up a whole situation like that. In my neighborhood, I have a couple neighbors that I'd like to talk to about planting trees. But it's really, it's so personal and, you know, I don't want to get in their face about it. If there was a situation like this, you know, where I was maybe a tree ambassador and I had a postcard to hand them and told them, you know, well, we're gonna have the tree giveaway here and,
Yeah.
you know, I
Great
think,
idea.
Okay. And you could wear a sash
and
as
yeah,
an ambassador.
right, and, you know, a hat with trees coming out of it or something. you
Well,
know.
that's a
Get the
bit.
garden fairy to make that.
I can make the hats.
I know you could.
Get the garden fairy crew to make
Yeah.
it all up.
you know, that's stuff like that's a great idea, you know, because it's not trying to push things on people.
Yeah.
It's literally begin to engage them in a
In a
meaningful
conversation.
conversation. And, you know, not taking sides or something. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm working on a survey.
Mhm.
Can you answer this question? Here's a little card.
Right.
Oh, did you know that we're having a tree giveaway?
Right, and within the survey, it could say, you know, I'm doing the survey and, you know, we're looking for 3 trees, you know, in everybody's, around their house. And did you know that we have you know, then it can lead to other
All
things.
these things kind of blossom, but it begins
Yeah.
by starting that conversation very simply,
Right,
passively, and, you know, not creating a barrier from the get-go.
It would have a really good, yeah, I feel a good effect just having a list of the benefits the benefits of trees, beyond just the shade, beyond the mitigation of the urban heat island, that if you have a tree near your house, the reduction of energy costs in the summertime. Or just the benefits of root systems, sequestering carbon, stabilizing the soil that might be unstable, encouraging biodiversity, and just have a list that
Mhm.
are the
Those things are,
pluses.
yeah, I mean, we can list all the pluses and list all the cons.
So is there any hope for the Publix parking lot from your perspective? I'm just really
I
curious,
answered,
like any
I
public
answered that
parking.
question to Shannon earlier.
Okay,
What was my solution,
They're
They
the
don't
Shannon?
have water, yeah.
We
I
need
don't
to
know if they have
have
irrigation
more
out there.
robust land development code changes. We need for redevelopment, and then maybe even requiring a 30 by 30 plot and it during the redevelopment. And again, that's something that we do need to discuss, as staff and the rest of it. And I know land development code is up for review
Mhm.
now or shortly, and I know we have to go through every single list of it, and since trees start with a T, I'm probably last. And but we need to go through the land development code. It's time.
mhm,
We need better lists of trees, species that are gonna be more suitable.
Yeah,
We need
Yeah.
to understand what those trees are, promote those within the community.
right.
To her point, hey, there's these tiny little right of ways. Well, you're not gonna plant a live oak in this
Yeah,
tiny little area and then expect it to do anything. We need to be realistic
Right.
Mhm.
in our objectives. That's my personal opinion. I tend to be very pragmatic. I don't want to be planting something that I know is not going to work.
Just,
It just,
Mhm.
we might as well not even waste our time and effort. Let's
mhm.
do things the right way. And a big part of that is going to be d- looking at the land development code and begin to kind of foster a better approach for some of these kind of things.
If I, oh,
So I have a few questions. One, just clarification. So this 35% tree cover. Now, if we add trees in certain neighborhoods, doesn't that increase the 35%? Yes,
Slowly.
slowly.
but there may also be other losses that are happening.
right,
Yeah,
at the same
yeah, I
time,
get
so-
that.
That's one of the issues when we get into some of these broader conversations,
Mhm.
because in any community, everywhere, you're gonna have some losses, you're gonna have
Yes.
some gains. And what we wanna do is not necessarily try to moderate that, but we want to be trending towards goals and establish what those goals are. But we need to be very careful because we need to understand your urban tree, the typical average lifespan of an urban tree is right around 30 years.
Mhm.
Okay, that's just the reality.
And it's less if it's near the saltwater.
Well, and other areas, trees growing in the Publix, their lifespans on average about 7 years.
well, they're in terrible shape too.
They are.
Oh, yeah, and I mean,
The
it's just,
plants are, they
it,
just
it
don't
doesn't
water
take a
them.
rocket science
Yeah.
to figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
And we're not trying to point blame at the Publix here, but it's just a very good example. But we see that throughout the community. Shannon and I were out looking earlier at one of the streets, and there's just these tiny little areas, and it's
Mhm.
like dead tree,
Mhm.
dead tree, dead tree, dead tree, missing tree, dead tree. Oh,
Well, we did have some sizable damage from the hurricanes too.
well, there's that, but there's other underlying causes
Yeah.
for these specific trees that we were looking at, and that's neither here nor there. The point is, we're gonna have losses over time, we're gonna have gains, and it's really a matter of, okay, where are we getting these gains? And are they in the right areas? And understanding may take us 30 years before we see that. What we tend to see in these canopy coverage studies, and I'm a little opposed to basing things on canopy coverage because it's not really taking a real view of the urban forest from the ground level. It's just looking at it from above.
Mhm.
And so it can be very misleading on things. But what we tend to see is we tend to see this wave where that canopy coverage grows and then shrinks,
Hmm.
and then grows and shrinks. As trees mature
Mhm.
and die,
Mhm.
that's going to create large gaps in our canopy coverage. And then as we replant with smaller trees, it's going to take years for them to actually grow to enough to actually reclaim that lost canopy coverage.
Mhm.
So my next thing is in the tree giveaway. So you get a tree, and it may be why people don't want trees. Because one, they don't know how to plant it, or they can't. They can't dig a hole. It's hard to dig a hole. I dig holes. It's not easy, and sometimes I have to start and rest and so for a lot of people that's really hard. So suppose they get it in the ground, then what do they do? So not only do we need maybe tree ambassadors to go and say, hey, tree, you can get a tree, but actually people who can help people plant them and know where to plant them. That's another issue. And how to maintain them, because then they have to water it. And if they don't have irrigation, or, they have to have a hose long enough to get there, or hopefully they have rain barrels, which they probably don't if they don't. I mean, maybe, but then you have to get the rain to the, but there's much more than just getting a tree.
Correct.
And
The
that's
care.
a challenge.
And that's a great, fantastic point, because so many tree planting efforts across the country fail
Mhm.
simply because, yes, we did a great job. We planted 1,000,000 trees and 999,000 of them died
Yeah.
because nobody followed up and maintained them, watered them, helped them, anything. And so the way to go about addressing that really goes back to kind of doing a little bit of marketing, in my view. And some of this is, involvement through the county extension agent, um, you know,
Private in partnerships with
Oh.
others within the community. St. Petersburg has a really good one going on right
Mhm.
now, but they've got with Larry down there, and I've been learning about them. And one of the action items that we're going to be discussing in the future here is about some of those partnerships.
Mhm.
And I think that would be the time to really explore those options for that
Could
part.
partner with the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts. They need projects to get their badges and everything.
Yes.
And they like to engage in that way. And they'd be great, you know?
I think
Um,
that there's a lot of opportunities there, and
Right.
it's just a matter of, again, building those bridges.
mhm.
And I think a lot of it starts with just some providing access to basic education, because where it all starts is with people understanding, oh, hey, I got this free tree. Oh, I was lucky enough, I got it in the ground.
Mm.
Hopefully they got the green side up. Sometimes that's a challenge,
Yeah. It's all a challenge.
but what do we do beyond that? And another way to kind of engage it, say if the city engages in some right-of-way plantings and stuff like that, reaching out to the community members and saying, hey, would you or one of your neighbors be willing to be a tree ambassador
Mhm.
and water this tree once a week?
Mhm.
So that the efforts that the community is going through aren't just in vain.
Mhm.
I don't think people realize how much trees add to the quality of our lives. Vegetation adds a lot of quality. I just was, I was so impacted when I spent a few days in Southern California, in the LA area, and I was just, where is the greenery? I mean, it was it was sad.
It is sad.
It was
Yeah.
sad. I almost felt like I was ill from
Yeah.
not being surrounded with greenery. And I'm not talking artificial greenery. It's just, it so adds to the quality of our lives to see the beauty of living things around us.
You bring up a great clarifying point on green space. Artificial turf does not count.
No, it does not.
Just to clarify.
Doesn't do anything beneficial for the environment.
No, it's pretty bad.
Okay.
Okay,
I really
I see that we're-
appreciate it.
We're getting the next part. I would love to
Oh,
show
yep.
you our
Um,
next up screen.
I was gonna say, Mike or Austin, could we get the computer unlocked? Sorry about that. We let it lapse.
Are we being asked to vote on something today?
It sounds like you guys, that the committee is wanting
Okay,
to
go
adopt this. Is this something that we should move forward with and bring into our master plan of actual meeting the goal for the,
Do we have a motion to approve
We want to
this
do,
plan?
are you showing us something else first?
no, that's fine.
No, we're just talking about the 335, 300 plan.
As far as just saying
Proposal.
that they asking if they feel this is a good direction to go in as opposed to the net zero canopy loss, like verbiage essentially as
Verbiage-wise.
far as, yeah. Conceptually, and, that would kind of mean that we're deviating a little bit from the language that, again, is in the sustainability plan, but the sustainability plan is, again, it's a living, breathing document. As we get into the implementation of it, we may come upon more actions that something has changed since, 2023 when it was adopted, right? So now Shannon pointed out there are legislative, issues or potential challenges to people adopting net zero canopy loss policies. So this is something that is more approachable and, being sort of, I guess, I am the sustainability coordinator, but being the person that's essentially in charge of the implementation, as far as the timeline and making sure we're following and taking action. I mean, I think it makes sense to obviously evaluate and say, okay, this action we're not going to be able to do it the way that it was written into the plan. We're going to have to look at an alternative option.
It doesn't
So-
seem to me an either or proposition. This is just the way.
It's a mechanism, right?
Yeah, it's the mechanism,
Yep.
the design.
You kind of
for
still arrive,
implementation
yes, you
of
still
net-
arrive at the goal, which is if we say that
net
we're
zero
looking at
canopy loss.
not, right, diminishing our 35% or however, that's one component of it, then that effectively is we're saying net zero, but we're doing it in a different way.
And I
So,
appreciate it's quantifiable.
yes,
It gives us a lot better measurable,
Right.
measurable and more tangible results that we can track over time.
Mhm.
And we can see where we can improve and where improvements need to be, continue to be made.
So do we have a motion to
Make a motion.
adopt
No,
this?
I'd like a little discussion.
Okay, well, we need the motion first and the second, and then we discuss it. We're not voting yet, but we
Okay,
just need a motion.
I'll make a motion to move this forward.
The 335, 300 rule.
And I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Now.
Okay. So if we were to adopt this, to move forward, this doesn't preclude having the canopy greater than 35%.
Correct.
Not at all.
Yeah, because
And-
I'd like to see those targets.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to see enhanced targets for the future.
And that is something, so an urban forestry management plan, it should come back about roughly every 10 years for changes and modifications, like every sustainability action plan, all of those. They're supposed to be living, breathing documents. So maybe and in this, we have said minimum 35. Maybe in the next 10 years, we up it 5%. Or maybe we've done even better, and maybe we're now at 45%. Maybe that becomes the next number. But to start with something, and then in the next reiteration, evaluate how we've done, what we've done. Is it working? Is it not working? Are we only at a 6% mortality rate on the trees that we're planting? I think all of that would go into the next edition of the urban forestry management plan.
Right. We need to have a starting point with things, and I think that this framework really provides that operational, starting point. You know, I do want to see the results that, you know, because it's, when we talk about that 35%, we're talking about the neighborhoods, because that's where we're having the impact.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Publix, it would be nice to have 35%, but we know that's just not achievable. So, you know, I really want to see what our net results are, because I think what we're going to find, and this is why I kind of caution as far as, hey, let's set a 50% or 45% or whatever right now today. I think without having the actual data, I think many of the community areas may be in that 45, 50% already.
Mhm.
And then where does that leave us?
Well, what
know?
if you could do wording that said with the intention? You know, that you have an intention to increase
Yeah,
the
I don't see a
future?
problem
That's a nice way.
with, you know, having a,
Right. So at least it's in there, it's, you know, there's legal ramifications, all that stuff,
Sure.
but the intention of the city is to increase this in the future. And those numbers will be worked out as we progress.
Could you say, yeah, reevaluate, and the intention is
Yes.
to reevaluate and progress the, you know,
and that's a great way of approaching it,
Yeah.
you know, it's,
That's
you
good.
know,
And we talked about a number of ways to achieve this, like the ambassadors and having a plan to help people plan to maintain. Now, that strategy of accomplishing that doesn't get put into this. So when does that get to be fleshed out?
So we do have a list of next discussion topics.
Okay,
The first two, the responsibility of the right of way and the municipal oversight, we are meeting with the city manager on those next week. Another one that we do want to come back to this group with is the tree species update list. And to have, all of you are well accomplished tree people and know right tree, right place, so email me some of your things that are going on. And then starting to review the landscape code and the development. Another aspect that probably a future, even more after these, having those education and outreach items, I do want to include those in the management plan. Maybe have them more of an open-ended, like the way you did the sustainability action plan, about how staff needs to increase by this many, maybe a percentage, or however we'll work that out, but to have it more open-ended so it can fit the right people at the right time and where the city is at the right time when we do start to enhance those planting plans and the educational outreach.
so to answer your question, we're not quite at that point yet
Okay.
in the whole process, but Shannon's gonna put this down as a note of one of the things that the committee would like for us to kind of focus some of our efforts on. We can certainly do that.
That'd
And
be
start
great.
to kind of figure out ways that we can kind of address some of those things.
Mhm.
You know, but this, you know, this is kind of the direction that we're going right now with this whole project as it kind of evolves, so that we kind of keep things pretty tight
Okay.
and manageable.
So the
Let me-
question is, action one says develop a net zero canopy loss policy through the land development code and preserve habitat areas for threatened animal and plant species. So this is the way that it's being implemented. I mean, that's the way I see it. So it's
Yeah.
not really a conflict or an either or, it is the means of implementation.
I get
So,
that.
are we for it?
I'm not finished asking questions. I
Okay.
have a few just, so one thing that in the future I'd really like to have a discussion about is things that impact trees, namely power lines. Because lots of people plant their trees under the power lines and then Duke Energy comes and cuts them all down. And what's that relationship with Duke? Like they cut it down, do they replace it or? add another tree. And also, the property insurance has gotten so intense, and they're forcing people to cut down trees around their houses.
Really?
Yeah, in order to, I've known a few people who have had to cut down major trees in order to qualify for property insurance. So, those are, I mean, they're not part of this particular now, but those are things that, are significant in terms of maintaining trees in, our city, and especially because the trees help to shade a house and keep cool, but if you do that, then. So I just want to mention these things to have them on a list someplace.
Yeah, that's great. I can kind of address both of those points
Mhm.
very quickly if you want.
I think we should save it for a different discussion.
Okay.
That's fine.
I am definitely a streamlined individual. I have to keep things together. So, as you can see by all my PowerPoints, so let's try to keep them together. And we definitely 100% will come back to that and we'll have a different discussion on that.
Great. I think that, so what I'm seeing is this as the first step in terms of, here's the initial plan, and then you have sub-discussions and other plans that move us along.
This is action item number 1, bracket 1 for objective 1.
This helps begin to paint the overall picture for us. So you can vision it like peeling the layers of an onion. This is that outer layer. And once we kind of get through that, okay, how do we tackle this next part? How do we tackle the power lines? How do we tackle the property insurance? How do we tackle the right of ways? How do we tackle all of these kind of things? Because at the end of the day, the city arborist needs to be able to have ways to implement all these kinds of things. So it's very much an action-oriented kind of
Yeah.
thing.
So this is the overarching
good
goal.
job.
This is the goal,
Mhm.
you know, this plus improving the percentage that I think everybody agrees with.
Mhm.
Okay,
You want to call
we
the vote?
vote. Is that appropriate that we vote on the approval of this?
If that's, Shannon, do you feel like you need a vote as like a?
I think you've heard us. You've-
Proceed.
Yeah, I think I'd feel more comfortable.
Great.
Than that when we do talk to the
Yep.
city manager,
Mhm.
that we have a actionable item.
Yes.
Of the sustainability committee says that this is something that they would like to see. And then we can go to the leadership and say,
That's great.
they have codified this in their group. Do we codify this in
Right.
other ways?
Mhm.
Okay.
Would you
You
take
do it.
a call?
Yes,
Over.
so I just want to make sure that I have the verbiage correct because I'm gonna, in the, minutes for the vote, I just want to make sure that what we're voting on is,
Is the acceptance of the 335, 300
yep,
plan as the means of implementing action 1
perfect,
of the sustainability plan.
great.
Does that make sense?
I think that makes,
The intention to increase in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah.
adding verbiage, yeah. Got it.
You call the vote.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yes, so we will take a vote now. I will just
Okay.
do a roll call vote.
Sure.
So it's just a yes or no.
Aye.
Chairperson Menino, yes? Okay.
Yes.
I.
Great.
We're
And
not as
Dr. Mickett?
formal, but
Yes.
Okay,
we're
so
all-
unanimous
Yes.
support?
Yeah.
Did you vote?
She did. She just,
They didn't
Quiet.
give you a gavel?
I didn't hear your name.
Yeah.
Again, I want to thank you. Your direction, your willing to work with me over the past 5 years as a committee with past members and new members that we have here. Thank you. It means the world and I'm getting goosebumps. But yes, your dedication, your motivation for this, and the discipline that all of you bring to Tarpon Springs, I truly appreciate it.
Well,
Thank
we
you,
appreciate you,
Shannon. We
Shannon.
appreciate you.
Thank you
you.
all.
Thank
It's
you
a
all
pleasure
for the
meeting everybody.
excellent,
Nice to meet you.
excellent
Thank you.
info and.
Yes, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, John. Thank you, Pat.
Send me those tree species.
Thank you, Pat.
I just want to make a quick point too, also just on the heat resilience. So one of the, there are multiple sustainability networks in the state of Florida, and there are a couple of big studies that have been done. Miami-Dade, of course, is a huge. They're doing a lot of really in-depth stuff with heat resilience, but also the city of Tampa has a really cool heat resilience booklet that they published, and they did a study. So if anybody's just curious about those, and what Tampa did was really cool because they essentially tested. I mean, it wasn't. They did a really cool kind of like model, I guess, area in one specific neighborhood of like what the temperature would be like in the shade versus like if there were misters versus, no shade, natural vegetation, shaded, hard canopy cover, not tree canopy, but hard, built canopy of some kind. So anyway, just really, really interesting because, we don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel too when we're educating and sharing, when we've got super accessible information that's from, Tampa's definitely a leader in this area, and they kind of, I think that's just a really easy thing to grasp and pull in and say, hey, like on that list of benefits, and just, to look at these are facts, right? So it's not, again, you're not trying to shove it down anyone's throat, but you're saying this is true information, and so take that for, something to just arm yourself with.
Is
And
the information online where
I believe
everyone?
the Tampa heat study is available online. I'm pretty sure it is.
Can you send us a link?
Yes, if
to
you
it?
Yeah, I can see if I can find a link
Send
for that.
us
And
a
I can,
link.
if I can't find it, I will ask for it because I have the, contact
Great.
for.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Sure,
That
of
would be
course.
great.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you all.
Great resource to
Appreciate.
share with everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you all.
Good evening.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, next on the
All right.
agenda is communications, education and outreach update.
I'm just gonna
I
give.
know, I'm
y'all a
letting
little
you write the
update.
notes. You're
Yes.
doing it all over
That's
there.
right.
You don't have a
Um,
secretary yet.
I am
or an
the
intern here.
secretary. That's right. Okay. All right. Okay, we have two more things to get to. So, well, not two more, but this and one more after this. But I just wanted, to give kind of an overview of some things that have been happening in the world of, sharing information and communication. So I did send you all the newsletter, but just, so it has been posted on Connect Tarpon. It is there. And so some of the topics that we covered were just recycling and kind of what the city's recycling I guess, success story was from 2024. So
Is this
that
in
was.
the backup, Holly? I'm trying to pull it
Mhm.
up on my
It is.
computer.
It should be in the.
Okay.
It's on that, it's in that
Yeah.
email she sent us, that link.
Yes, this is all in the backup though.
I'm on it. I'm just maybe having,
Outreach
difficulty
and
opening it.
events, spring
Okay, got it.
2025.
got it. Thank
Um,
you.
Yeah. So the great thing about the city's, I guess, the way that we provide recycling services is through our same waste provider, WM. And so essentially, though, because we are redirecting waste, away from the county, incinerator, landfill, anything like that, we kind of get money back. We get a little rebate. So that's kind of the cool thing. So if we were able to increase as a city, resident participation in recycling, we would be seeing that number of, the amount of savings go up in the future. And that is a future goal in 2026, actually, is to start working towards increasing the recycling participation. So anyway, just kind of always wanted to keep that out there as a little. And then there was a beach cleanup that was already held. Just coming up here in the next few months, there are, of course, some awareness days. We have April is Water Conservation Month. Of course, it's also Earth Month. So our, tie-in to just awareness with water is, of course, that we don't have endless water supply. It's still technically our dry season. We had a little rain squall come through this afternoon. That wasn't much rain though. So, we will not really see that the heavier rain until June through September. That's the rainy season here, right? So everyone should still just be mindful of the fact that we've been in drought conditions. And so to consider, or not consider, but to continue to follow the water restrictions that are on the Tarpon Springs website, and just keep in mind all of the upcoming awareness days that we have. And here we are, tree care. It's never too early to begin to care for your trees before storm season. So we put some resources here, a link to, the extension for some of their guide for, pruning and, again, just preparing for the storm season. And we are always seeking volunteers again. We are trying to grow our committee. We are anticipating growing by one here in the next week or so. So by the next meeting, we should hopefully have a fourth person, but we still have some open spots. So anyone who happens to be watching and is interested, and then, just continuing work on our implementation of sustainability plan actions. We do have the solar feasibility study it has kicked off. We'll have some site visits happening in the first week of April. Climate action plan is ongoing, and just continued, collaboration and learning from other departments what's happening on the city level, the regional level, and even, in some cases, the state level to help just inform what we're doing. We just included some tips for spring cleaning, Earth Day activities. So the library is kind of our place where our Earth Day events typically happen, and it's really just going to be like a display and sharing all kinds of resources. The police department is hosting a shred day, April 26th. So keep that in mind. And then this is separate from the newsletter, but then there is also a spring cleanup coming up for all kinds of special debris. So this is like your solid waste special day. You can bring tires on certain days and certain times. So check out this flyer. Again, I posted this on the Sustainability Connect Tarpon page. It's also on the solid waste department's website, or page of the city website, that is. So lots of good information, resources on what will and will not be picked up in that. But so lots of departments are participating in special events for, Earth Month here. And then this is not a city event. This is something that I was sent from Blue Green Connections, which is a nonprofit, and they're hosting their own Earth Day event at St. Petersburg College, the Tarpon campus, so local right here on Earth Day itself from 5 to 7 p.m. You do have to purchase tickets, but they are going to have some, a variety of speakers, and it's just kind of a way to connect with, conservationists, just about acting local, So that's a cool option for people who are looking for something to do on Earth Day. And let's see what else. Okay, and then another really exciting thing coming up is we have been partnered with SUN, which is Solar United Neighbors, for a few years now. And SUN has a new program coming out. It is starting now. It is called Switch Together. And this is a program for residents, for homeowners who may be interested in exploring the possibility of installing solar panels on their homes to investigate. It's a community buying solar program. So it's a way to get a discount on solar. So previously, their programs were kind of called co-ops. This is like the next iteration of a co-op, but it's a regional program. So they've really expanded their reach, and they are going to send out a direct mailing letter, a directly mailed letter to residents of Tarpon Springs, and it will come from Switch Together, but it will also have the city seal on it, because we have an ongoing, agreement. We have a resolution actually that they can use our city seal, our logo, for mailing and marketing purposes. And it's just a really cool resource to be able to share this with homeowners, again, who might be interested, but they didn't think they could afford it. So this is just kind of basic, background information. There's obviously a website. It's switchtogether.com/solar. But if you don't know where to start, this is a great place to just explore. Essentially, they take all the interested, parties, but they've agreed on a price. So they've taken it to essentially an auction for all of these vetted installers. So they have an agreed upon price, and they already essentially know what that's going to be. So they can tell you how much you would save if compared to if you went and sourced it out to an installer on your own. So anyway, it's just a resource. There's no, there's not a commitment as far as just exploring. If someone were to be interested, they would take the steps through the process and, register and make their own personal decision about it. But it is a really great program out in the world, and it just gives people a little, option on something they may not have had access to previously. So that's a great little outreach update. And then the last thing that I have is just that we also submitted for a regional award they're called the Future of the Region Awards through the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. And we submitted the sustainability plan. So Sustainable Tarpon Springs, the plan itself, it has been submitted for an award. So I will keep you all posted. I hope that it wins, but I just think that it's a great, they were looking for things that are an example of, a regionally significant, either project or a plan certainly counts for that. And so I just think it's awesome that we have something that we can put forward and say, look, Tarpon Springs, we're a small city, but we're leading. We are showing that other small cities can make these plans and, go down the road of implementing all these important actions that we've listed. So anyway, that was something I got to do last week. And I think that's a good shot. So we'll keep you posted on that. So that's really it. Just wanted to let you know about some of the outreach things that I've been working on, and we'll keep going on our implementation.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So when people are on the Connect Tarpon Springs,
Yes.
they're signed up, this should come into their email.
Correct. So the newsletter, when it was posted, they should have gotten an update. And then when I posted the flyers, I guess, for like the spring cleanup and
So the spring cleanup goes out with the utility bill.
okay, great. Yeah. So that everybody should get that too.
I didn't get one of these in my email, and I'm on Connect.
Okay.
Tarpon.
I'll have to check on the settings. I am not 100% sure about if a notice goes out. So I will definitely ask about that. Like what needs to happen to ensure that people are notified when
When they're
something is
signed up
posted. Right.
for
If they're signed
Connect
up,
Tarpon.
then correct. So I will definitely check that because I am not sure about that part of the process.
I don't think
But-
I've ever gotten anything from Connect Tarpon in my
okay.
email.
Interesting.
Mm-mm.
So that's a question.
You might check your spam folder too.
Yeah.
Not
But
my
I
spam.
think
check my
that,
spam.
I'm not sure what the
yeah.
mechanism, is for that. So I'll have to ask.
A lot of work. I mean, it's wonderful. This newsletter is really
It is.
touching all the things that are happening right now, and this is what we wanted.
Yeah.
But
So we
now
wanna make sure
we
people
want-
see it,
there's an
right?
audience.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want there to be an audience.
And I will, like the Switch Together, for example, there will be social media posts about that. And I can also, ask for a social media post to say, in case you didn't know, there's a sustainability newsletter. So I do need to close the loop with that as well. So I'll make sure that we're kind of trying to get on at least a semi-regular,
And
posting on the city's, Facebook page.
also, I'm having a blank on her name, Karen Lemons.
Right, that's who I work with. Yeah.
She posts a lot
does.
on her when she sends out the business thing.
Yes.
And she put this on hers, I bet.
She usually does. She usually includes, information from other departments and things.
I haven't, in the last one, I haven't seen it. So it'd be good when she does the email blast so this could be on it.
Mhm.
You also might want to ask the chamber to put it on, because the chamber reaches a lot of people.
They do. I'm just not, yeah, I will have to see about that.
Yeah,
Just because,
I'm sure Jean would do it.
okay. No, that's a great point. We can-
Early on, we tried to talk about different partnerships that we could have within the community.
Mhm.
And the chamber was definitely one of them. But I don't know that we've really pursued, you
Mhm.
know, using.
I just, it's, no.
Utilizing their mailings and their mechanism for
Yeah.
communication.
And they
but
send
that's-
things out all the time.
Okay, that's
And-
really good to
and
know.
they send tons of things.
Mm-hmm.
People just give it to them and they send it out.
Okay, great. That is excellent. Okay. Well, on that note, I think
Okay.
that we are ready for,
So, yeah, I will just update you on the things that I changed and the conclusion of the presentation.
so I will go, tell me which,
The exciting
let me
thing is
turn
that
it
it's
into a
going to be on
presentation.
Earth Day.
yes, so this is,
Let me make sure I have it.
Yeah. we
this
have
is
to-
on the agenda for the Board of Commissioners meeting on April 22nd.
22nd.
April 22nd.
So this is the same for 2025. Should I have said the sustainability 2024?
It's for 2024.
Okay.
Yes, so I do think we need to update that.
I will do that one, and I'll send you another
Okay.
copy.
Great. And
Okay.
then we have that other change that we're going to change back because
Yes,
I made a
so
change that,
It's the next slide that I
Okay, which-
kind of enhanced was sustainability defined as, oh, do we want to change that too? Add a member, the new member, or?
why don't we wait until Tuesday, once it's
Yeah,
officially,
if you could
appointed?
get back
Yeah,
to me on it
perfect.
and
And then we'll
correct
put that.
spelling, and
Yes.
we'll put the name of the
Okay.
new member.
Yes, that'd be great.
And then you can keep
Okay.
going.
We've already gone over that
So
one.
this, I see a typo in the last one. I think I need to change.
Thinking globally, you need a
Yes,
space.
it's.
Oh,
it
okay, there's
needs
a space
space.
missing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, next, is sustainability is defined as, it's the next slide.
Okay,
I added a little bit, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Beyond that, it is about providing the best quality of life for enrichment, which includes health and beauty of our environment and consequently for us and future generations. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Do you think? Or is that more than we need?
No, I think it's
That
good.
sounds good.
Okay. I just, it's just like the trees thing. I feel that it was a really big wake-up call to me to be in Southern California and feel like, what is wrong? I felt edgy because of the lack of vegetation, and I realized it, and I thought, this is so sad. This is like living in some sort of dystopian environment,
I know.
just having everything be cemented in.
Can we go back to this, what motivates sustainability?
Oh,
the previous slide?
Sure.
Yeah. So you say our children and our grandchildren, our future through them and for them.
Mhm.
And I get that. But, and I would say I feel that way, even though I don't have children and grandchildren. So there's
So it's love of the earth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I think-
I'm in the same, I don't have
Okay.
kids
so
either.
this is, it's sort of,
We have to include us.
Okay.
yeah.
Tell me what you want in there, and I would be glad to add it,
I think for me, just, one, the
humanity.
longevity of our planet,
Yeah,
but the longevity of our communities.
Yeah.
Our future communities, but it's also good for now. It's past, present, and
Yeah.
it's present and future.
Mm-hmm.
currently,
And we certainly need children and grandchildren
Yeah.
and those, we need future children to,
but
inhabit
first we
it.
need to look at the present.
Yeah.
And then looking to the future,
Mhm.
for our
wanna-
grandchildren, you know.
I think we can just say,
Well, it's
The
quality of
planet's
life.
children.
It's
Mhm.
enhancing quality of life.
for future generations.
Okay.
Well, it's now and
Now.
for future generations.
So
Yeah.
what it should say is enhancing quality of life for now and future generations.
Well, just use the word present.
Current, yeah, present.
Present, enhancing our present quality of life and for future generations.
Yeah, that's more,
But it's
Sure.
also for the animals, and
Yeah.
it's also for the trees. It's also,
Let
not,
me
it's
think
not
on that,
human
because I
centric.
feel that it's larger,
Yeah,
and, I'll rewrite it and I'll send it to Holly
Sure.
and she can send it to you. And actually, the presentation won't happen until.
We have time,
um,
right?
yeah,
Even
until after
our next meeting, exactly.
So,
We will have a meeting on April.
and how
16th?
early do you
April
have to hand
16th?
it in?
Yes,
Do you have to
Okay, and
hand
what
in
time
2
is it?
weeks before or
I
something?
will have to,
yeah, that's for this meeting.
It's
Oh,
a-
no,
it's
I
about
mean,
a
when's
week
your,
prior,
22nd is
let's see, I'm trying to think
6:30,
when I need to
probably.
send it
It's
for the
Tuesday.
Maybe
BOC
it's
agenda backup.
Tuesday,
So they're-
April 22nd.
At the very latest, I want to say it's essentially a week before. So
Okay.
even though we would have a meeting, we might not be able to make changes and still submit
Right.
the presentation.
So
So
I'll
it would
send
still
the
need to be,
amendment
yeah,
to you.
yes.
Okay.
So once you,
Thank you for your comments.
Mhm.
I appreciate them.
well, I think too, just, obviously when you give a presentation, not every word that you say necessarily has to be on the slide. So as long as Denise, you feel like what you want to say is cued by the slide, you can always obviously expound upon that. So if it's a phrase like for present and future, generations and however you want to communicate, or
There's a phrase that I'm just not grabbing right now out of the ether, but I know that it has to do, it's more all encompassing.
Yeah.
Of the
Mhm.
quality of all life. It's the
Mhm.
biodiversity of all life.
Mhm.
But I know that there's a
I
there's a
was
phrase
thinking
out there
about
and
I was gonna throw
I
out
can't think-
biodiversity.
I can't think of it right at the moment, but when I do, I'll send up some options and
Yeah.
get your feedback
And it
on
may
them.
be good to include some, trees and
Flora
older
and fauna,
people and,
flora and
Okay.
fauna.
a big,
I do
Biodi-
think she's maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I think maybe you are asking Denise, like when you say what motivates sustainability, are you thinking what motivates us as humans to act more sustainably, to pursue sustainability, I guess?
Correct.
Yeah, like what
Correct.
are our human motivations? So,
I think I would work on the first line.
Okay.
Why sustainability?
yeah.
Why should we pursue
Why should we
sustainable?
want it?
Yeah,
Why should we want sustainability?
I don't think a lot of people understand what it is.
Mhm. Well, has to be sort of immediately beneficial to, um,
Well, so we don't
Influence
use
people.
up everything
I know.
and leave nothing
mhm.
for it. And then we're doing a lot of
So
it.
then
Poor
the
animals.
next slides that I actually changed, I did change the highlights. And this I left the same.
Okay.
Okay.
The next one would be highlights.
Okay, here we go.
And I put a correct date in this.
Oh, good.
But sustainability crosswalk was woven into the comp plan. And
There's just an extra little word hanging in there.
I
via.
need to go back and change that. I think that's most of all of this is the same.
Can we go to the previous slide? Back, yeah. As an art director, previously I was an art director. That type run that way, it's very hard to read.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Maybe we can find a
Because
different,
you go, you're reading this way
Yeah.
and then you gotta go that way.
And actually, I didn't design this
No, you
one, I
just
just
borrowed it.
pulled it
Sure.
off the
Yeah,
net,
I
you
w-
know,
I would-
because I
you
wanted
can
it to
find a
look like
different, yeah.
pillars.
I like the pillars as well. I think it's a good image. I can send you a couple of options,
Okay.
Denise, maybe,
Can't
that are,
read that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds good.
And
That's-
this
I didn't
idea of
say-
pillars is the new thing. Every organization talks about their
Well,
pillars. So
that
that's
sustain,
good.
and sustainability, it's always been talked about.
Yeah,
You know.
People use that all the time. So the pillars are good. It's just, as Siobhan said, we'd like to read it.
I had a professor who said, never stack the type and never turn the type.
No, I agree.
Okay, good point.
Okay.
Okay,
Next.
so highlights were good, and then moving
So
forward.
I did change this one. Remember, it was
Mhm.
just a tiny picture. It's one
Yeah,
I
that's
took
good.
on my phone.
It looks great.
And it, you know, has the feature of canopy,
Yeah.
which I love. Moving forward, the committee will.
Okay,
And
Where's that
my
going?
husband had a great picture of Sunset Beach concert.
Yeah, that is great.
It looked really,
Yeah, that's
Vibrant.
nice.
With the
Mhm.
sun setting.
yeah, provide feedback on ordinances regarding sustainability in all policies. Continue our relevant educational process through department presentations. Provide feedback on urban forestry plan. Proactively request accountable implementation of the sustainability action plan timeline progress.
Okay.
Prioritize effectively engaging the citizen partners of Tarpon Springs. Now, should I say citizen or resident partners?
Probably resident.
You know, you don't really need semicolons at the end of these lines.
Okay. I will take them out.
yeah, that's true.
I
It's kind of
was-
like a bullet or just
It-
like
it's
a
a
list,
bullet,
right? You
yeah.
don't really need,
Mm-hmm.
I will
getting
remove them.
punctuation.
Nitpicky
No,
here,
that's
but,
good.
you know.
It's exactly what you're supposed to do.
Content is good,
So,
okay.
Next slide.
Fine.
Its recommendations, continue to actively seek resiliency funding for projects. Educate residents on adjusting their sails to the changing winds. User-friendly updates to the city's sustainability website. to
This was an
improve-
oopsie. I suggested a change to this that
Different.
Denise had it better, and we're gonna put it back to what Denise said, because I think what she was getting at was user-friendly updates to the entire city website. And essentially, I think that that's what should be back in there. I misread I was not thinking about recommendations to the BOC. I missed that part when I suggested a change. So I said, Denise, put it back to what you had it to start with, so.
Oops, I got the wrong keynote here. Okay, so I have the original and I was looking for it, but I can't seem to locate it quickly.
I think you said it was user-friendly, but it was,
Yeah, I don't have it right in front of me
Okay.
now. Coordinate department-specific initiatives, planning and ongoing work.
I don't know what that means. You're asking the BOC to coordinate department-specific
I
initiatives.
know, I think I've even lost what I was intending in that. Do you have recommendations that you would say?
I think you
wanted to
mean
say
coordinate
utilize us more.
Department sustainability initiatives. Coordinates department's sustainability efforts, planning, and I don't know, something. I think that's what you mean, right?
Mhm.
So that departments work together with their,
That's exactly what I mean, because I feel that a lot of times there's gaps,
I think that
but I don't know how to
Well,
say it simply.
Mhm.
It gets really challenging when you're trying to succinctly
well, why
put it
don't you
into a
say
band.
Just-
coordinate
But it's
Well-
because there's a lot of gaps, but we have coordination in the plans. But oftentimes it feels like people aren't communicating with one another as,
Coordinate departments, sustainability efforts,
I think,
planning and efforts.
I think what it, from my perspective, I would say it needs to say support because the Board of Commissioners doesn't coordinate
Oh, yeah,
really.
that's
You know what I
good.
mean?
Support,
I think support interdepartmental sustainability
thank you.
planning and
initiatives,
efforts.
planning. Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Yes.
Mhm. And you're recommending user-friendly updates to city sustainability.
No, that was rewritten and,
I think Denise's original was more to say that the city websites and communications need overall user-friendly updates. I have your original probably in my
Back to
email
sustainability.
with respect to all things, but yes, sustainability is included in that.
Continue to actively seek resiliency funding for projects.
it was prioritize a much more user-friendly city website to
Mm.
improve communications.
Oh, okay.
Because it seems like since the inception of this committee, we've all struggled with the way that
Mhm.
it's hard to find what you're looking for on the website. And not every committee page
Mhm.
is uniform.
Yeah, and they're not helpful.
So I feel that
Mhm.
it's been something, I mean, sustainability, more than probably a lot of other committees, is really about networking with people.
Mhm.
And
I mean, we
you
have
want
to
them
reach,
to be
yeah.
able to find what they're looking for easily.
Well, Connect Tarpon Springs
Yes.
was supposed to be that vehicle,
Mhm.
but it hasn't been because, I mean, during the hurricane, it really didn't work because there wasn't people who were posting enough. And that's a good vehicle if it were really utilized 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I think a lot of people don't even know about it.
Okay. You're
But I
right,
think,
getting all this down.
but I think that this is one of our issues, as you always say, about communicating to people. And communication is part of sustainability.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, I just added one more slide whenever you're
Okay.
ready. Maybe one more, and I'm gonna put a thank you slide in as well.
Just something to think about, Denise. We have this beautiful image of the earth here, but we also have something similar several slides back. So just thinking about maybe like Siobhan was saying, a tree, or Dr. Mick was saying, maybe
Okay,
well, we already have trees too. Well, we'll just think about maybe diversifying the imagery.
But this works well
But
here.
this I love. Yeah, I think it was the earlier slide.
I figured it's Earth
Yeah.
Day.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we definitely.
There's
I love
another
that.
Chief
Did this
Seattle
early
quote
on.
too, and I
You have
was
one with
gonna
a
add.
footprint on it,
Yes, that's right.
but that's sort of interesting image.
Yeah, the one with the footprint was kind of
And then you
cool.
have another one
Mhm.
at the beginning.
Mhm.
Sustainability is thinking globally, acting locally.
Uh-huh. Maybe maybe I will replace it there or put a different, maybe a more close-up
Well,
slide.
I don't mind the repetition.
Mhm.
I mean, I often will start and end with the same image.
Mhm.
And one of the things that you're emphasizing is that we belong to the earth. We belong to the whole thing. We
Mhm.
just don't belong here.
If we don't take care of it, we can't be here.
Right. I mean,
No, that's true.
it's it's the whole
Yeah.
shebang, not just our little.
I don't mind it either. I just wanted to make sure you knew, sometimes when we make presentations, but we don't, view it sort of, I could, I
Oh, I
could,
see
I could
it.
make
I
myself
have,
become repetitive. So I'm just making sure that you are, and if it's intentional, then it's lovely. It's
You may
completely
not
fine.
want the footprint one.
There was
Mhm.
that poster that came out when Earth Day first started, and it had a flower, and I think it had a similar message.
Okay.
It's a good message.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm gonna
We
try to.
forget.
If you think of anything that I can add image-wise,
Yes.
or you have it,
Mhm.
send it to Holly and she'll
And I'll
forward
forward
it to
it.
me.
Yeah, that's no problem.
There is another quote that I want to add to this, but I appreciate that feedback and I'm going to look for
Well, if
a
you-
way of spicing it up, diversifying
If
it a
you
little
just
bit
look
more.
at Google Earth Day
Mm-hmm,
and go to images,
mm-hmm,
there's a whole bunch of them.
okay.
I mean, there's a hands holding a tree. There's hands holding the earth.
Yeah,
There's
make every day Earth Day. It's the hands holding the
Yeah.
earth.
and they're all Earth Day.
Mhm.
They're about
So
of
do we
options,
have
okay.
any more feedback on this? Because I'm going to probably add just one more slide that says thank you. Uh,
thank
For
you
supporting.
to whom? The
the-
BOC.
Anybody that watched it, anybody, all of us, because it's a coordinated effort. If it's not a coordinated effort, it's just bits and pieces that are going to be ineffective.
Well, why don't
So
you say, thank you for your unified efforts.
Right. Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, these are
Okay.
good images.
Thank you.
A lovely backdrop. Okay.
Okay,
Are we done?
we're done with that portion. We're just looking for items for the next meeting agenda. Did Shannon have any need to come return?
That's a good question. I did not ask her if she needs to come back in April, but I will follow up on that. But I would assume that if she does need something, that you all would be amenable to her being here.
Of course. Yeah,
Okay.
you know,
I'll check with her on that.
what's really terrific is feeling a sense of continuity because she
Mhm.
had come
Mhm.
at different times,
Mhm.
but they were far apart.
Right.
But this, this is really addressing some of the major natural environment aspects of the sustainability plan. So it's nice to have
Mhm.
some sense of continuity.
And she did say, send her, if you have something specific you want to send her, you're welcome to do that, via email. She did say she's going to start working on this tree species, the acceptable species list. So that may be something she wants to, bring back and just discuss, but I'm just not sure if that would be April or a different time. So I will just check with her on that.
I've had experience with different municipalities with their tree species list, and I could help on that also. Recently, I did a bunch of stuff in St. Pete and had to adhere to their
Mm.
wishes and take out the clients planted oaks, and then they didn't want the oaks anymore. I was a whole blah, blah, so I spent a ton of time looking at all that
For sure.
and working it out.
Okay.
So,
Well, I can let her know, or you can also email her
Shannon,
directly. Yeah, for sure.
possibly,
Right.
and then you've talked to floodplain manager.
Yes, so I will be, I'm gonna be meeting with Megan Araya, our floodplain manager, next week. And she is interested in coming to do a presentation. I'm just, again, not sure about her schedule. So we will have to iron out, when exactly that is doable for her, really, just
She's
because
been
she's
very
just been,
overwhelmed.
yes, it's
since
been
the hurricanes.
such a huge, just, requirement for her to process all of the, damage assessments from the hurricanes, as required by FEMA. So, she has been very, very busy, and but I'm excited that she is going to be able to make time just to, kind of talk to me, and I can, essentially, it's just one of those interdepartmental things, right? Where I always want to be supporting and, just kind of understanding what she's, what her tip-top priorities are, that is there a way that, I could
Right.
support her, and just also to keep informed of, what's happening in the world of resilience, because that's, we have sustainability, but we also have to turn our attention to resilience as well. So, but
I think
preparing
that
for the
that's
next.
the highest priority right now, because it seems like we can't get ahead of what's happening. So we have to know how to adapt.
So, so that is a possibility, but again, I just don't know for sure if that's going to be a presentation that she can do for April. So those are kind of the maybes.
So sustainability has different aspects to it, and we've been focusing on the nature part of it mostly. Trees, flooding, blah, storm, all of that. I would like to see us make a bit of a shift to talk about economic sustainability and equity within the city.
Well-
Because we've recognized that that needs to be as much part of sustainability as
We're
other things.
following the rollout, the implementation that's
Schedule,
from the
yeah.
plan. Do you have the hard copy of this at all?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, yeah, so that's kind of what is driving what we're addressing when we're addressing it, is the sustainability
Correct.
plan actions implementation.
Well, last time when we did the presentation, the BOC made it clear that there were three aspects of sustainability. And it seems to me that we need to discuss those things. And it would be good maybe to have Karen Levens come and talk to us about economic
We could do that.
sustainability.
I will definitely ask her to. She has been tracking, and she has, kind of a summary that she put together for me for a potential like funding thing that I was looking at applying for that we didn't. But she tracks, different businesses that are doing green initiatives. She, we follow Pinellas County. Essentially, we use Pinellas County as far as like the workforce development aspect of economic development. And so whatever they're doing is kind of what we do. But she definitely, I would imagine that she would be happy to share kind of what she does. But again, and that is actually a 2025 focus market demand for green jobs, technology, products, and services. That's action item 31. It's listed the time frame for implementation, 2025 to 2028. So a 3-year window to kind of work on that. So it is definitely on the radar.
But it's something else also. So we've talked about issues about planting trees. We've talked about, okay, green businesses and so on. And having green space and maintaining it and making sure your trees are cut or this sort of thing. Well, if you have the economics, you're not going to do those things because one, you don't have the funds.
Yeah.
Two, you're focused on
Everything else.
everything else.
Survival.
Yeah. Or, so these things all go hand in hand. And if we just focus on things that certain people can do, that's not going to sustain our city.
Well, I
We
agree
need
that we
this
need a,
across the board. And if we have strong economic sustainability in our city, everything else, it's all together. It's
Mhm.
not like one thing, the other. And I think that we've been amiss by not focusing on that at all. So I'd like to start that discussion, and Karen is just terrific, and see how, I mean, even the things about this whole Main Street thing. Main Street's a way of focusing on certain areas of the city
Mhm.
that need to be revitalized and made into neighborhoods. Those are things that are very important for sustaining our city.
Okay.
That whole idea of working together, that things aren't individual,
Mhm.
everything's connected. And I
Absolutely.
think we need to, and we talk about that all the time.
Well, we
So
could
we need to
target,
do it.
we could target certain communities that have less tree cover. I heard a report on NPR that uh, areas that on the lower economic level really they don't have any greenery.
No.
You know, and their heat index in
Mhm.
those communities is a lot higher, and then that, that leads to crime.
Leads
Because
to
people
health
are
issues.
too hot.
We're running off
Yeah.
onto a tangent here, but we're gonna, Holly can connect with Karen and see
I'm-
if she's available to
Yes,
discuss
I'm
the
absolutely happy.
implications. And then
Mhm.
then we can ask her questions about
Yeah.
Yes,
those
and I
things.
think, just, keeping in mind that, this is a very, thorough, it's a very full list. It's a very, in some aspects, demanding as far as how we would implement these things within this time frame. So, just being somewhat flexible with the fact that not every single thing can be a fast track item, though I totally agree that I didn't write the plan. So I am trying to work within what exists, and there will be opportunities to maybe pull some things forward or make some things more of a priority, but the plan was written with the time frame sort of establishing the priorities, so that's really the only way that I can work. But if the committee says that something should be a priority that needs to be pulled forward, absolutely, we can talk about that. That's
I don't
up for
think it's-
discussion.
I just, as what I think what my point is that it's all connected.
Sure,
So
it is.
talking about any of them entails talking about how all of that's connected. And I
think
don't think we
Just
should leave
us
it.
being educated on the way that it's being approached
Mm-hmm,
by the city.
mm-hmm.
So it helps me personally gain greater understanding of how the pieces fit together
Mm-hmm.
when,
I agree.
so thank you.
And our job is to inform the city with our knowledge,
Mhm.
which may influence how the city approaches things. And I see that as our responsibility.
So I think that we have some guidance for the next agenda and,
And I do think
Staff
probably just an
comments.
update on if, any of the specific implementation action items that are in progress, we can do that as well. I mean, just for
Mhm.
keeping that, promise as far as making sure everyone's informed on what we as a sustainability department are doing.
Mhm.
I can definitely do that as well. We probably wouldn't have multiple, outside presentations just in the sense of we don't want two topics that would be super time consuming so that we can still, flesh out any questions and have a full, discussion with that person. So I will see who I can get on the schedule for April and then kind of go from there.
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay. And Holly, do you have any comments?
I think that most of mine really were that I wanted to share with you about the communications and outreach. This is just kind of another thing that goes along with that, though. I did have a meeting with a student at Tarpon Springs High School who is the president of the environmental club there. And she was asking for sort of ideas or possible ways to, partner or engage with the city on, I guess she wants to start like a legacy project of some kind that would, be ongoing for a number of years. And so anyway, we talked about a lot of the things actually that we've talked about in previous committee meetings. We talked about, trees, but then I did start thinking we were talking about community partnerships and organizations that could help with some of that outreach. That would be a great partnership as well. So there's always,
You know,
lots of little
Is there
things.
any reason she can't be on our committee?
She's not 18.
Oh, you have to be
Mhm,
18?
You have to be 18.
But maybe there is someone who's
I
a
mean, if
young
there is a
person.
young person, if there's an 18-year-old who, no matter if they have, if they're still in high school or not, if they're 18,
at
that's
St.
the
Pete College?
age. We've reached
That
out
would
to
be
St.
really good.
We've reached out to St. Pete College. I've sent them flyers. They've posted, about committee membership and volunteering. So, it's out in the world.
Okay, well, I hadn't thought about that. Well, I know some young people.
Okay, committee
ma-
comments?
Well, and then also maybe we could, if we start the tree ambassadors, and I wouldn't mind taking the lead on that. We could start engaging
Mhm.
with the students. I used to build mini parks in Buffalo, New York.
Oh,
And so I have some experience. with this
Ooh,
stuff.
you would be a great resource. Yeah,
She would be a.
that's perfect.
I worked with two different groups, the Young Adult Conservation Corps and then that was YACC and YCC.
Mhm.
So it was based on the CCC from during the Depression.
Hmm, yeah.
And they did
Mhm.
huge projects, and then
Yeah.
this was a youth organization. That's how I started my career.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a connection
be
that we need to
Yeah,
make.
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool because that is something.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
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 And then we could,
Mhm.
we could start thinking about it.
That's, yeah, that's a good little, that's a great little,
I used to run a garden group called the Garden Fairies, so, I know how to corral people
I
and,
like
I
that.
bet Robin Center would want
yeah,
to be part of
Okay.
yeah.
okay.
Any comments?
Oh, the only thing
When our intern is going to, timing?
it's spring break.
Okay,
So she,
maybe next
so
meeting?
so maybe the next meeting, I will ask her, if she's available to come.
Okay.
So,
And I had asked Holly to send out, I don't know whether the video was attached to
Yeah,
that.
I saw it.
Okay,
oh, okay, good.
okay, there was
thought I included
video.
it.
I'd seen that
Yeah,
before. but
it's
great.
extremely interesting, how they're taking glass in Louisiana and crushing it back to sand and very direct form of recycling because there's not enough
Mhm.
sand for some of these projects and they're raising areas up and I thought it was fascinating. Whenever my husband watches something like that at night, he sends me the videos and he says, this is
Good one.
relevant.
Yeah.
So I've got one citizen that's promoting sustainability. So are we ready is everybody said everything that they needed to say?
Yeah.
You ready
Yes.
to end this meeting? Okay, we're gonna adjourn
I move to adjourn our meeting.
I second it.
and we all agree.
We all agree.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned,
Aye,
Aye.
7:54.
thank you very
Excellent.
much.
Okay, and Denise, we will sign the minutes from the last meeting.